Next is isolation. Friends, family, outside perspectives, all cut off. Without anyone to remind them of who they were before, their world their thoughts become controlled by their captor. And finally, forced dependence. The victim relies on their abuser for food, shelter, even basic human connection. By this stage, they might not just accept their captivity, they might defend it, just like Patty Hearst did. They don't just stay, they become active participants in their own entrapment. This is why people remain in abusive relationships, why prisoners of war form emotional bonds with their captors, and why high control groups keep their members submissive. It's not weakness, it's not stupidity, it's survival. The brain prioritizes safety over freedom. When someone is trained to believe escape is impossible, they won't even try. And that's what makes learned helplessness so terrifying. The most dangerous thing a manipulator steals isn't someone's freedom. It's their belief that freedom was ever possible in the first place. Stockholm Syndrome. There's a moment in every hostage situation where the victim should fear their captor, hate them, fight them, do whatever it takes to escape. But sometimes, something strange happens instead. The victim starts defending them, trusting them, even loving them. It sounds impossible, but it's not. The name Stockholm Syndrome comes from a 1973 bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden. 4 hostages were locked inside a vault for 6 days, terrified and powerless. When the police finally rescued them, something bizarre happened. Instead of thanking their saviors, the hostages defended their captors. One even raised money for their legal defense. The world was baffled. How could victims side with the very people who threatened their lives? But this wasn't an isolated case. It happens in kidnappings, cults, abusive relationships, even prisoner of war camps. And the reason why is terrifying. Stockholm Syndrome isn't about weakness. It's about survival. When a person is trapped and powerless, their brain stops looking for ways to fight and starts looking for ways to cope. The captor controls everything: food, movement, even whether they live or die. And in that situation, the mind does something disturbing. It rewires fear into attachment. It starts with small acts of mercy. A kidnapper allows their hostage to eat. An abuser apologizes after an outburst. A cult leader offers protection from an outside threat. These tiny gestures create a twisted reality. The victim starts seeing their captor as their savior, not their oppressor. Because when someone is both the source of your fear and your comfort, your mind clings to the comfort. Then comes isolation. The victim is cut off from the outside world, forced to rely only on their captor's words. Over time, their own sense of self erodes. They stop questioning. They start justifying. This is why abuse victims often defend their abusers, why hostages sometimes refuse to escape, even when given the chance. It's not about logic, it's about survival. And finally, dependency locks the victim into place. When their only way to stay safe is to keep their captor happy, they stop resisting. They start working for them instead of against them. They might even feel gratitude, loyalty, love. This is why Stockholm Syndrome is so terrifying. It proves just how fragile human perception can be. The mind will betray itself to survive, twisting reality until captors become protectors and victims defend their own suffering. And the worst part? Most people don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Memory manipulation. What if I told you that some of your memories, the moments you swear happened exactly as you recall, might be completely false? That someone could plant a memory in your mind, and you would believe it just as firmly as your real experiences. It sounds like science fiction, but in reality, memory is one of the most fragile, easily manipulated aspects of the human mind, and that makes it a perfect tool for control. Take the infamous Lost in the Mall experiment by psychologist Elizabeth Loftus. Participants were told stories about their childhood, some real, some completely fabricated. One of them was simple. As a child, they had once been lost in a shopping mall. At first, the subjects had no memory of this, but after repeated questioning and subtle suggestions, many of them began remembering details. Who found them, what the mall looked like, how they felt. They swore it had happened, even though it never did. Their minds had filled in the blanks, constructing a completely false memory. This wasn't just people misremembering. This was memory being rewritten. Our brains don't store memories like a camera, capturing moments in perfect clarity. Instead, every time we recall an event, we reconstruct it, pulling together fragments, filling in gaps, and, without realizing it, changing the details. And here's the terrifying part. The more you recall a memory, the less accurate it becomes. This means that, with the right influence, someone can alter your past. They can change how you remember events, reshape your emotions, and even convince you of things that never happened. One of the easiest ways to manipulate memory is through suggestion. A simple phrase like, "Are you sure that's what happened?" Or "I remember it differently" introduces doubt. Your brain, wanting to maintain consistency, starts adjusting its recall to match the new version of events. Over time, you adopt the false memory as your own. Then comes reinforcement. If multiple people confirm the false memory, whether they're lying or just misremembering, it becomes reality. Social agreement is one of the most powerful tools for shaping memory because the brain values collective certainty over individual doubt. If everyone else remembers it that way, maybe you're the one who's wrong. And this isn't just some harmless quirk of the mind. History has seen terrifying uses of memory manipulation. False confessions in criminal cases have been extracted by police interrogators, reconstructing events until the accused believes in their own guilt. In abusive relationships, manipulative partners rewrite history, convincing victims they were at fault for things they never did. Governments and propaganda machines have altered historical narratives, reshaping public perception to serve their agendas. Memory is the foundation of identity. It shapes who we are, what we believe, and how we see the world. But what happens when someone else takes control of it? If your past can be rewritten, then so can your future. And by the time you realize your mind has been altered, if you ever do, it's already too late. Fear-mongering. Fear is the oldest form of control. It overrides logic, crushes independent thought, and turns people into willing followers. When someone is afraid, they don't analyze, they don't question. They just want to feel safe. And that's what makes fear-mongering and anxiety induction one of the most dangerous psychological tricks ever used. History is filled with examples of fear being weaponized to control entire populations. One of the most infamous, the Salem witch trials. In the late 1600s, paranoia gripped an entire town. People believed witches were lurking among them, hiding in plain sight. The fear became so overwhelming that neighbors turned against neighbors, accusations spread like wildfire, and logic ceased to exist. People confessed to crimes they never committed just to avoid execution, and those who didn't confess, they were sentenced to death anyway. Fear didn't just manipulate them, it made them destroy themselves. And you don't need a witch hunt for this trick to work. It happens everywhere. A manipulative boss keeps employees terrified of losing their jobs, so they never complain. An abusive partner convinces someone the world outside is dangerous, so they never leave. Politicians and media outlets use fear constantly, telling people that disaster is imminent, their way of life is under attack, and only one person, one system, one ideology can protect them. And the more afraid you are, the more control they have. This works because fear hijacks the brain. When you're anxious, your amygdala, the part of the brain that processes threats, goes into survival mode. Logical thinking shuts down, and you become hyper-focused on avoiding danger. In that moment, whoever offers you a way out, whether it's a leader, a product, or a belief system, becomes the person you cling to for security. This is why fear-based marketing is so effective. Ads don't just sell products, they sell protection. Without this cream, you'll age faster. Without this insurance, you'll be ruined. Without this security system, you won't be safe in your own home. The fear is planted and the solution is immediately presented. The most terrifying part, fear-driven manipulation doesn't feel like manipulation. It doesn't come with a warning label. It feels like concern, like preparation, like a necessary precaution. But if someone is constantly feeding your fears, keeping you anxious, and offering themselves as the only solution, step back and ask why. Because the moment fear stops being a warning and starts being a leash, someone else is holding the other end. Emotional blackmail. This psychological trick is so powerful that it can make people betray their values, stay in toxic relationships, and feel trapped in their own lives. It's not hypnosis. It's not mind control. It's something worse. And the scariest part, most people don't even realize it's happening to them. Picture this. A mother tells her child, "If you leave me and move away, I don't know how I'll survive." A partner says, "If you really loved me, you wouldn't question me." A friend warns, "After everything I've done for you, you owe me." These aren't just guilt trips, they're calculated forms of control. This is emotional blackmail, a psychological manipulation tactic where someone exploits your emotions, fear, guilt, and obligation to get what they want. They don't ask, they don't force. Instead, they make you feel like denying them is cruel, selfish, even dangerous. And before you know it, you're doing things you never wanted to do, because saying no feels impossible. And this trick isn't just used by individuals. Entire groups and movements have been built on emotional blackmail. Take organized crime. Mob bosses have used this tactic for decades. A perfect example, the mafia. They don't just rely on threats of violence. They manipulate loyalty, family ties, and unspoken debts to keep members obedient. A small favor is granted, an act of generosity extended. But there's an unspoken rule. Refusing to reciprocate is betrayal. The idea of walking away isn't just dangerous, it's made to feel morally wrong. That's how deep emotional blackmail can go. But it doesn't take a crime syndicate to use this trick. It happens everywhere. In relationships, where one partner constantly threatens to leave if they don't get their way. In families, where one person controls everyone else through outbursts and silent treatment. At work, where employees are made to feel guilty for setting boundaries. And it always follows a pattern. First, the manipulator makes a demand, subtle or direct. They want something from you, but instead of asking, they set a trap. Next, they trigger guilt, fear, or obligation. Maybe they act hurt. Maybe they explode in anger. Maybe they withdraw affection. Finally, they offer you a way out. If you just do what I say, everything will be fine. And just like that, you're trapped. Not because you can't say no, but because it feels like saying no will destroy everything. So how do you break free? It starts with recognition. If someone makes you feel like your emotions are being used against you, step back. If setting a boundary results in threats, guilt tripping, or emotional punishment, you're being manipulated. And the key to breaking free isn't arguing, justifying, or explaining. It's refusing to play the game. And here's the chilling truth. Emotional blackmailers don't want love, fairness, or respect. They want control. And the moment they realize they can't control you anymore, they either escalate their tactics or move on to their next victim. Playing on insecurities. Everyone has insecurities, small whispers of doubt that creep into the back of your mind. Am I good enough? Do they really like me? What if I fail? Now imagine someone knowing exactly what those insecurities are and using them to control you. This is one of the darkest psychological tricks, weaponizing insecurities to manipulate behavior. And it happens everywhere, in relationships, in workplaces, in politics, even in the ads you see every day. One of the most infamous examples, Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme. He didn't just steal billions, he exploited his victims' deepest fears. He preyed on wealthy investors who feared missing out. He made them feel special, chosen. part of an exclusive club, and once he had them hooked, he used their greed, self-doubt, and desire for status against them. People kept giving him money, even when the red flags were right in front of them. That's how this trick works. It starts by identifying someone's deepest fears or desires, then twisting them. A romantic partner subtly makes you feel unattractive, so you get their validation. A boss hints that you're replaceable, so you work harder for less. A friend constantly reminds you of your past failures to keep you in check. The goal? To make you dependent. Dependent on their reassurance, their approval, their protection. And here's why it's so effective. Insecurities cloud judgment. When someone makes you feel like you're not good enough, you start to second-guess yourself. You become more willing to prove your worth, even at your own expense. And the worst part, they control the supply of validation. They can give it and make you work even harder to earn it back. Social media is a breeding ground for this manipulation. Algorithms thrive on insecurity, feeding you ads that make you feel unattractive, unsuccessful, or like you're falling behind. Influencers curate lives designed to make yours feel less exciting. Companies sell you solutions to problems you didn't even know you had, until they pointed them out. But it's not just corporations that use this trick. It happens in families, friendships, and relationships. A toxic parent constantly reminding their child that they'd be nothing without them. A jealous friend downplaying your achievements so you never feel truly successful. A partner chipping away at your confidence, making you feel lucky to. Over time, these tactics break people down, making them easier to control. So how do you fight back? First, recognize the pattern. If someone's words or actions make you feel small, uncertain, or like you have something to prove, take a step back. Are they actually trying to help you grow, or are they making you dependent on their validation? Second, rebuild your confidence outside their influence. The less power someone has over your self-worth, the harder it is for them to manipulate you. And finally, remember this. No one who truly cares about you will ever use your insecurities against you. Because the most dangerous thing about this trick isn't just that people fall for it, it's that they often don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Triangulation, a psychological trick so subtle it can turn the most confident person into an anxious wreck. It makes people question their worth, their relationships, and even their grip on reality, without them ever realizing it's happening. This is triangulation and jealousy induction, one of the most effective manipulation tactics used in toxic relationships, workplaces, and even politics. At its core, triangulation is about introducing a third person, real or imagined, into a dynamic to create tension, competition, or insecurity. It's a classic move in manipulative relationships. A controlling partner casually mentions how attractive or successful someone else is. They compare their victim to an ex, implying they aren't measuring up. Sometimes, they even fabricate outside interests just to provoke a reaction. It doesn't seem like direct manipulation at first. It's just a comment, just a story, just a harmless observation. But over time, because the victim starts to compete for validation, they feel replaceable. They work harder to prove themselves. They stop focusing on whether the relationship is healthy and start obsessing over how to be good enough. Jealousy induction is the next step. Instead of just mentioning a third party, the manipulator actively stirs doubt and insecurity. They flirt in front of their partner. They praise someone else excessively. Make sure their victim sees the attention they supposedly receive. And with every calculated move, the victim grows more desperate for reassurance. Because the more unstable they feel, the easier they are to control. And this isn't just in romantic relationships. It happens everywhere. In workplaces, a toxic boss pits employees against each other, constantly favoring one person over the rest to keep everyone on edge. In families, a parent compares their children, creating rivalry instead of connection. In politics, leaders divide people into factions, turning them against each other to maintain power. But why does it work? Because humans are wired for social validation. When someone we care about or respect suddenly introduces competition, our brains go into survival mode. We crave reassurance. We want to be chosen. And that desperation makes us vulnerable, willing to do anything to regain favor. The true danger of triangulation is how it rewires thinking. It shifts the victim's focus from, is this relationship good? What can I do to be good enough? It fosters paranoia, self-doubt, and emotional dependence, all while making the manipulator seem desirable, powerful, or in control. So how do you stop it? First, recognize the pattern. If someone is making you feel like you're in constant competition, step back and ask, who benefits from this? Healthy relationships don't require you to prove your worth against someone else. Second, refuse to play the game. The moment you stop reacting, the manipulator loses power. And finally, prioritize self-worth. The stronger your sense of value, the harder it is for someone to manipulate you with comparison and jealousy. At its core, triangulation is a game of control, designed to keep people emotionally unstable and seeking approval. But once you see it for what it is, you don't have to play. And the moment you refuse to play, the game is over. Public shaming. For centuries, public shaming has been one of the most effective tools of control. It can strip a person of their dignity, isolate them from their community, and turn them into a cautionary tale. Whether it's a medieval village gathering to mock a criminal in stocks, or a social media mob tearing apart someone's reputation, the psychology behind it remains the same. Public shaming isn't just about punishment. It's about breaking a person down so completely that they accept their own destruction. One of the most infamous examples, the Salem witch trials. In 1692, innocent people, mostly women, were dragged into the public eye, accused of being witches, and forced to confess under extreme pressure. The accusations weren't built on evidence, but on fear, hysteria, and the overwhelming power of public condemnation. Once someone became a target, their fate was sealed. Because when a crowd forms, reason disappears. But why does public humiliation work so well? The answer lies in one of our deepest, most primal human fears: social rejection. Humans are wired for connection. We survive in groups. To be cast out means danger. In ancient times, exile from a tribe was often a death sentence. And while today's world may not physically exile people, public humiliation triggers the same biological terror, the fear of being completely alone, despised, and powerless. And it doesn't just happen on a massive scale, it happens everywhere. In workplaces, where a boss ridicules an employee in front of others. In classrooms, where a student is shamed for making a mistake. In relationships, where one partner humiliates the other in front of friends. It's a power move, designed to make the victim feel small, weak, and dependent on the person or group that shamed them. And here's where the psychological trap deepens. After the humiliation, many victims seek approval from their abuser. Instead of fighting back, they try to regain acceptance, making them even easier to manipulate. And now, social media has taken public shaming to a new level. A single mistake, a poorly worded tweet, a misunderstood joke. Within hours, thousands of strangers become judges, juries, and executioners. The less individual responsibility anyone feels, it becomes a feeding frenzy of outrage. And once someone has been branded as bad, the internet rarely forgives. But public shaming isn't just about punishing individuals, it's about controlling everyone else. When someone is humiliated in front of others, it sends a warning. Step out of line, and this could be you. It enforces social norms, not necessarily because they're right, but because the fear of humiliation is stronger than the will to resist. So how do you protect yourself against public shaming? The first step is to recognize its purpose. It is designed to control you through fear. The moment you understand that, the power of shame begins to weaken. Refusing to engage with it, standing your ground, and rejecting the guilt trap are the strongest ways to break free. Because the true trick of public humiliation is that it relies on one thing, your belief that you deserve it. And the moment you stop believing that, the spell is broken. Hoovering, one of the most deceptive tricks in psychological manipulation, doesn't come in the form of anger or threats. It doesn't push you away. It pulls you back in, just when you're about to break free. This is hoovering, a tactic designed to suck you back into a toxic cycle